Hey, Jennifer, you there?
Yes, hey.
Oh, sweet. Seems like it works.
We tested last night, but I just wanted to make sure I said I hadn't actually used Zoom before. I've used obviously Google Hangouts a lot and Skype, but this is the new cool software, right?
Well, the kids are using, yep.
Okay, yes.
Nice to meet you.
Too, so hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah. So we're gonna get people are gonna be hopping on in the next like few minutes. I figure we'll probably wait like five or six. Usually wait a couple minutes after the thing really starts, just to give people an opportunity to join in.
Great. So do you usually just want me to talk in general? Do you ask questions? What's the format?
Yeah. So the format's just so and hi to everybody who's like hopping on a little early.
Hello.
We're doing a little bit of pre this thing starting up. We're just kind of ironing it all out. Yeah, so usually I ask a few questions, the students will ask a few questions, and then towards the end we might screen like 3 or 4 songs, just get like hot take on them.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. It lasts about an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a more of a Q&A than sort of me just speaking.
Yeah, yeah, it's guided, so it won't be like, hey, here you go, talk for an hour.
I've done that too, so that's why I said I could talk for 3 hours if you really need me to. But okay, that makes it a lot easier. Okay.
Yeah. All right, well, cool. I'm gonna try to get see if I can get my coffee going before we start here, but I'll hop back on here in a minute. Looking forward to getting started.
Oh, I have a chat. Okay. Messaging. Let's see. Clicked on chat. How did I go? I started the video, but now I went to a chat screen and now I'm in some other place. Hi, everybody that's joining. Can you hear me? I'm not sure how I'll know if people can hear me. Is that a yes? Okay, you're nodding. Okay. Sorry, I went to the chat window and I couldn't hear anything. Let's see. Let's see what time is it. Oh, okay. So yes. Okay. I'm trying to figure out how I can see myself and see the chat. Okay, questions. Well, nice to meet everybody. Good job being early. So you get some advantages to, everyone can hear me okay, right? So you get some advantages to being early because you get to ask questions. Okay. If you can't hear me, I guess group chat me. Let's see. How do you, so it's Jennifer, Yeko, nice to meet everybody. How do you choose the songs that get played? I asked my small group last night and they weren't sure. Okay. I assume you're talking about placement in terms of getting songs licensed, if that's correct. It just depends on each project. So basically, whether it's a TV show, a Netflix show, a film, an ad, I mean, each video game, a movie trailer, every project has kind of a very specific directive. For example, if it's a TV show set in the 1950s, you're obviously going to be only able to use period music. If it's set out, if there's a movie set out in space and they're fighting crime, it's a Marvel film or something like that, you know, actually that's a bad example because you can use a lot of contemporary music in those instances. But if you notice, a lot of films especially are very period based. They might be set in the 20s, it might be set during the Civil War, it might be set in a certain time. So obviously they're not going to be using a hip hop song right, in those situations. So it really is about the time period. And then even if, say, it's in a modern day time, each show has a very specific directive. So trying to think of an example. A lot of shows like, say, Law and Order SVU, most TV shows are going to have a lot of score. So the composer is going to be writing the music for much of what you see, or there won't be any music, or there's just a da-da, something that's iconic to that show. And then there might be source music if they get in the car, they're going somewhere, there might be a rock song on, or there might be a hip hop song, or there might be something that kind of sets the mood. But it just really depends on the show, and they kind of have their each, sort of a direction. Like some, if it's a Grey's Anatomy, they might be known for more poignant love songs to play while someone is in the hospital or something romantic is happening. If it's a sports action thing or promos between, the Super Bowl spots, obviously that's probably going to be really high and upbeat. So those types of things. It just depends on the project. Let's see. Oh, hello, Christina. Hi, everybody. Hi. Thank you so much for Catch the Moon for having me. This is a kind of a cool technology. Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, there you are. Welcome back. Hope you got your coffee.
Hey, you were just like right in. You just dove in. That's great.
Well, I see that I have the chat window open, so I'm looking at the questions.
Perfect. Yeah. No, this is awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us. I'm John from Catch the Moon. Usually like to start things out with just giving an introduction. I have your bio pulled up. Do you mind if I just read some things off of it?
Sure.
Sweet. Just give you a proper introduction here. So I'm just going to read your bio kind of word for word. Jennifer Yeko brings over 20 years of experience to Platinum Star Management and True Talent PR. Her background in entertainment and music includes work for Variety Magazine, Maverick Records, EMI Music, Sony Pictures, Paramount Pictures, as well as several music websites and personal management firms. She's been in personal management and public relations for 20 years and specializes in managing independent artists and bands and music supervising and licensing for music for film and television. Additionally, Jennifer taught the class Music Supervision for Film and Television at UCLA for 2 years. How cool. Yeko has been featured in the New York Times, Billboard Magazine, The Hollywood Reporter, Music Connection, Rofax, and Variety, and is a frequent speaker on numerous industry panels, including the Billboard Hollywood Reporter Film TV Conference. She's also been a mentor at the Hollywood Music and Media Conference. She has placed her clients' material in over 50 film and television projects, including hit television shows such as Sex and the City, The Hills, The OC, Laguna Beach, Smash, Ghost Whisperer, and the list just goes on and on and on. She's also placed songs in national TV commercials for clients like Stride Ride. Yeko has promoted a wide range of artists and musical genres, everything from top 40 and pop to modern rock and classical. She's produced and managed major events such as the Showbiz Expo, for which she has secured over 200 speakers, including former Vice President Al Gore. Wow. Thank you so much.
I've been doing this a while. It's part in the dated references.
Well, the resume speaks for itself, in terms of just the expertise and that you bring to like the licensing world, in terms of the knowledge that you obviously must have with all this. We're very honored to have you as a guest speaker here with our course. And I'd just like to kick things off. Is there anything about your background? How did you kind of like with your journey? Is there anything that kind of led you in this direction? Maybe a Cliff Notes version of how you got into the position that you're in right now?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in music. My parents were record producers, but more on the Broadway side of things. So I grew up seeing musicals, and I kind of grew up in recording sessions, and I moved out here to work in film, and I wound up working in music. And I guess just realized that as much as I love movies, I'm more of a film. As much as I love films and movies, I'm more of a music person, if that makes sense. And so, I just found an artist that I loved. I started managing him, and then that led into music licensing, and that led into me starting a PR company and sort of doing a little bit of everything. I've tried to evolve as the music industry has obviously evolved, over time between, downloading and Napster and streaming now. And so I've just tried to kind of stay one step ahead of things as the industry has changed. But I've always loved artists and music, but probably most of my background has been kind of on the management side, and then getting into licensing to help artists get their music out there.
How do you, in terms of management, how are you going about? Do people contact you regarding things? Or are you looking out, kind of have an eye out for talent that you might be able to help kind of lift them to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do a lot of scouting. So, I try to find artists when I can. I certainly, because I've been doing this for so long, I do get a lot of incoming submissions. So I get a lot of emails. I always ask, "Where'd you find me?" And they said, "On the internet." So yeah, having done a lot of different things and writing a lot of articles, and I've had some articles published in Music Connection, places like that. So there is just kind of an influx of people coming to me, but certainly if I can go out and find somebody, that's something that I try to do. I just don't have as much time as when I started out.
Yeah, maybe you used to go out to places to check out live music. Is that where you would find people sometimes,
I
or?
did so long ago that you couldn't even look up the music online. So you had no idea. You just had a list of the bands that were playing, and you would just have to sit in the club for 4 hours and just say, I guess it's a rock band. I guess it's a singer songwriter. And you would just be it was fun to be surprised, a lot more work than today. But literally you had no idea who was coming up on the stage. So yes, when you're kind of starting out, and actually it's good for artists, I think, to perform not just if you're in LA, but just in general, because nothing is going to get your live show to be better than if you're out there performing. But yes, a lot of scouting, because at the end of the day, your live set is going to kind of make or break your career if you're trying to do this as a full-time job.
Would you say that the live experience of an artist is still as important as it was 20 years ago?
Ooh, that's a good question. It depends on what you're trying to do. Again, a lot of artists are sort of doing this maybe for fun, as a hobby. It doesn't have to be. I think it's sometimes more healthy to make it kind of your side project, your fun thing to do. You make music, you record it, you promote it and play some shows, but you're not trying to sustain your entire life from it, right? Because it's a competitive business. So in that sense, sure, can you stay at home and write songs and license them and get a lot of Spotify streams and, perform online for people? Yes. But if you're looking to get a record deal, make your money from concerts and tour, obviously most artists are making the bulk of their money from concerts and festivals and going on tour, because that's where fans come, they meet you, they buy merchandise, but that's where you're going to make money, right? A lot of other ways people aren't going to pay to buy music these days. Maybe they'll stream it, but unless they can sneak in over the fence to Coachella, they still have to pay to come see you for the most part. So yeah, it's really the biggest revenue stream. And when you look at Taylor Swift and it's like biggest tour ever, that's where all the money is, obviously, in touring. So if you're not touring, or you're not licensing your songs, I'm not sure that there are a ton of other ways to make money.
Yeah, totally makes sense. I mean, people don't really buy, they buy vinyl, might buy a CD, but who gets CDs printed up anymore?
Right.
Not too many.
Right.
I guess so one of the questions I always like to ask is kind of, what's your day-to-day like? Is it different? Are you working on different stuff all the time? What's your day-to-day like with your gig?
Yeah, I think that's actually probably the best thing about what I do, is that there's no day that's ever the same. So, one day I might be really looking for new artists and trying to find new music, whether it's to pitch or potentially someone to manage, but that could be one part or all of that day. Yesterday, in the past couple days, for example, I've spent just a lot of time over email, just emailing music supervisors and people that I know, because I'm promoting several artists. So, you're writing press releases if you're doing a lot of PR and reaching out that way. But there's never really a day that's the same. When I was starting out, I did a lot of cold calling. So I joke that I locked myself in my office for 10 years. And I just cold called people, because if you don't have those relationships, it's very hard to get, say, your music license. So I was just calling people all day on the phone, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours a day. I'd just be on the phone, emailing. So it just depends, depends on the artist, depends on the project. Sometimes you're rewriting a bio, you're working on a press release. Other times you're looking for new clients. It just kind of depends on the individual client and what they need help with. Sometimes I'm giving feedback on songs. Obviously, I'm just kind of listening to all, what am I saying? I'm opening all the emails and just listening to music, because a lot of people do say, hey, I'm an artist, I'm looking for a manager, I'm looking for a publicist, I want to get my music licensed. So listening to those songs and just kind of dealing with contracts every day is a little bit different.
Interesting. Now, when your artists send you music, are they, since you have such expertise in licensing, are they asking for feedback sometimes, like is this helpful? Is this something that could be synced? Do you have that kind of relationship with your artists?
Yes, that's usually, I mean, again, it is a very popular area, right? So when I started, not as much. It was very hard to license your music as an independent artist, but now I think everyone's kind of doing it. So yes, definitely a lot of people that reach out have seen me. I've written an article about music licensing or supervision or something about that area. So they're saying, well, what do you think? I need someone to pitch my music to film and TV, and I'll be honest, I'll just tell them, I'll say, listen, the vocals aren't very good on this track, or the production needs a lot of work, or, there's just a lot. I mean, I've listened to so many songs, and I've been in this for so long, so I can just be kind of brutally honest and say, this just isn't, sometimes this isn't going to work, and I don't want someone to spend time and money on something if it's not a licensable song, and again, if the vocals are really pitchy or even a little pitchy, I mean, you're up against really great artists, right? Like Kathy. So, so you got to really step up your game, I think, in a lot of senses. So I'll just be honest and say, the song's okay. I was pitching an artist recently, and a lot of the feedback, I thought the song is catchy. I still think it's a good song. And a lot of people have said, oh, I like these songs. But a lot of the feedback has been, I just don't think it has a good enough hook. And actually, some of the best feedback I got was from just a couple of friends. They said, what do you think of this song? Be A&R for a day. And they said, it's just not very memorable. And I thought the songs were good, right? With my ears, but sometimes you have to also play things for maybe not just your friends, but find the friends or find the strangers that are going to be brutally honest. And if they say, it's okay, but I just don't really remember the chorus, or what's the song about, if it's not resonating with the average music fan, it's going to be harder to get someone interested in it for potentially placement somewhere.
Yeah, it's going to be an uphill climb, huh? It's one of those things where, just correct me if I'm wrong, but like the ear training that happens over the course of like your entire career in the music industry, you really become accustomed to like what works and what doesn't work, and you can kind of tell like right away whether a track is kind of hitting the bar that it needs to and kind of rising above that, or whether it's falling short.
Right, that's true.
Yeah. How many, like in terms of like the work that you do with your clients, how many placements would you guess that you're typically like active in securing for your clients every year?
Yeah. I mean, I don't do as much pitching as I used to, because I've become sort of so particular, and I will tell people if I just don't think that they have music that's licensable, I've turned down, I don't even know how much work. So I turn down a lot of things. I will only pitch like a handful of artists a year. And as any of you probably know, or if you've been in this business a while, it's very competitive. I mean, it's very, very difficult to get placements. I'm not a music library, or I'm not, if I was an artist, I could write songs that I know I could get licensed, but I'm kind of at the mercy of the artists and the bands that I work with. So if I say, this is cool, but you need to write a ballad because that will work better for, say, a TV show, and if they keep writing certain upbeat songs, and that's fine. But if it's not going to work for the project, it's going to make it very difficult to license things. Things are just very, very competitive. That's why I was watching one of Kathy's videos, actually, and she's talking about, there's just certain songs and styles and artists. Like I can hear something and say, yes, that would work for film and TV, or maybe again, an ad, trailer, or video game, or it won't. And it's tough to sort of make something into that if it doesn't work. But I do think there are things people can do and learn. Songwriting is a skill like anything else, But say, for example, maybe you're not like, I know I can't sing, or maybe I would be trying to be a singer, but I know I can't sing. But if I wanted to write songs and I love songwriting, there are many, many bands where the main songwriter is the keyboard player or the bass player or the guitarist or the drummer, or they all work on songs together, but you have to recognize what your strengths are and be honest and say, you know what, maybe you're an amazing songwriter, but maybe you just don't have that voice, right? So then that's about finding else in your group, or finding demo singers, or finding other people that can sing your songs, because at the end of the day, the song can be great, but if the vocals, I'd say 9 times out of 10, the song's pretty good, but then the vocals come in and I'm like, oh, So if you want to get onto TV, if you want to get your songs licensed, you have to be honest with yourself and say, am I really an amazing singer? Like, do I really sound like Adele? Do I really sound like Chris Martin from Coldplay? Do I really sound like Lady Gaga? Or do I need to find someone to collaborate with that can sing my songs and to give them their best chance? And I think you'll see a lot of your, the artists that you look up to and respect have found that person, especially if it's in a band. You might find, you know, someone else is writing a lot of material. So being honest with yourself, I think, is really key.
All seems like solid gold advice there. In terms of like, sometimes it's got to be tough because people might think they're a good singer, that they might think that they're really good at doing this style of music. It might be something that they take like a personal pride in, and then they find out, well, maybe that's not their best strength. How do you kind of pivot to doing like what you do best, and figuring out how that all works in the context of like whatever project you're working in? But as far as like specific things, you were saying like it's kind of like a song has either got it or it doesn't. What are some of the things, like maybe more specifically, that kind of stick out to you in terms of something when a song really grabs hold of your attention?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. It really depends on the music and the genre. So maybe I'll talk about two different examples. I mean, I love pop music, right? So if it just, to me, if it's pop, if it's something that's just catchy, I don't even listen to the lyrics. It's just, I'm in the car, I want to groove to something, you know, I want to get something to get me in a good mood. So in that sense, if it's kind of a pop song or something that you would typically hear on a terrestrial, like, radio station in your car, if anyone listens to the radio still, I'm just looking for kind of a good beat, something that's fun and upbeat. And certainly, you know, if there's a lyric that's relatable, that's helpful, but certainly a lot of lyrics aren't relatable. I don't know, I'm not dating a guy from London like Taylor Swift, so I can't relate to all her songs as much as somebody else perhaps. But I think with pop music, it's much more about the feeling. And yes, certainly if you have that universal lyric, that chorus, something that makes you go, oh yeah, I can relate, Adele, to having my heart broken, or I can relate to this situation, that's helpful. I think on the other end of that are ballads, right? And so if you're listening to something more down tempo, a ballad, again, I think that's more, for me anyway, this is my own opinion, just more of a feeling. And again, the lyrics can be really important in any song, but I think what you're trying to evoke usually with any type of music is a feeling, right? And yes, the lyrics can be part of establishing. Sam Smith is a great example. Okay, he's been cheated on again. I get it, you know, but you feel for him, right? When you listen to like a Sam Smith song, you go, oh gosh, I feel bad for you, Sam Smith. So I think you want to evoke a feeling with your music, and I think the best thing you can do as a songwriter, as an artist, is to really write from the heart. I forget who told me this, but some years ago they said, you know, you want an artist, you just want to be kind of just, for better lack of a better word, just kind of raw and naked, right? Like with your emotions, not your physical body, but you know, if you want, that's fine too. But you know, just kidding. Like if you want to be successful, and I think most successful artists, if you listen to their music, again, just using say Adele as an example, she's just so raw and emotional with how she's feeling. And even if I haven't had that experience, it's like watching a movie. You feel like you're living that when you listen to that 3 or 4 minute song. So I think in the beginning of songwriting, it might be hard to be that vulnerable, but you want to just kind of just lay it all out there, just that raw honesty. And I think if you think about your favorite artists and your favorite bands, they're probably doing that. Again, if it's just a pop song, it's just something to fun to, you're going to like, you know, Electric Daisy or something, like, you know, like that's different. But in terms of songs that get licensed, I think you really want to be evoking a feeling. And the best way you can do that is just bearing it all and being open with your emotions and sharing that with people.
Absolutely. That's all such great stuff. What are some of the themes, like in terms of like what you know works for licensing? Maybe some of the themes that, as far as like human emotions, like the things that humans most frequently relate to in terms of like, you know, what are some of the things that like emotionally, like the themes that tend to draw, you know, maybe you personally as a listener in?
It's a really good question. I think it depends on the project. So again, with ballads, obviously a lot of songs are written about love. I don't know what percentage, it seems very high when I listen to any song in general. There's a lot of that. Again, you know, with EDM, it's different, but that's not a genre that gets licensed a lot. So at least for film and TV, so that's kind of a different situation. So I think a lot of songs are about love, honestly, but it doesn't matter. I mean, a lot of songs, you know, obviously some songs are more political or they have some other message, but even that's kind of rare, right? You know, I think you want generally speaking, broad, universal lyrics for a lot of things. Although honestly, I've had songs that I didn't think I could get licensed. I had an artist once and he wrote a song. It was called like Jenny or something. And I said, that's never going to work because what are the chances the character's name is going to be Jenny? And then even if it is, it's too on the nose. They talk about being too on the nose. So if someone's walking down the beach in a scene, you don't want a song about, and they're walking on the beach, right? It's too on the nose, right? You want something that gently underscores it. So I said, we're never going to get that song licensed, at least in my opinion. And of course that song wound up getting licensed despite the lyric and having someone's name in it. But in general, obviously I don't advise putting someone's name into a song. But again, I think it just spoke to the fact that that song evoked an emotion and the music supervisor just really liked it and it kind of worked. But you know, with ads, it's very different. Again, you sort of, it helps to watch all of these medium. So if you want to pitch for, you know, an ad that goes on TV, or you want to pitch for TV, like watch a bunch of TV shows. You want to pitch for video games, play a bunch of video games. Like what kind of songs are getting used? But, you know, so say for advertising, you know, pop, upbeat, they tend to use a lot of female vocalists for whatever reason, makes you want to shop more. It's not to say obviously you can't be a guy and get stuff licensed, but again, it just depends on the feeling and it depends on what they're trying to sell you. If it's a dramatic scene in a TV show, you know, they're probably not going to want bright, poppy, you know, songs. So it's going to be something that's more moody. And again, a lot of, I think what resonates with people is not just the lyrics, but it's the mood that you're evoking, but you want something that's generally kind of broad enough. Like what is the, Imagine Dragons Radioactive. I really still don't even know what that song is about, but it kind of work for a lot of different things, right? So you know, just a general sort of sentiment or a feeling that many people can relate to. Adele, like, hello. I mean, you know, it's just a really general lyric, but, you know, and the lyrics in the verses can be specific, but I think especially when it comes to a chorus, you're probably not going to have a chorus that's super specific. Again, we're talking about pop songs, you know, everyone's different. And if you have a songwriting style, you know, there's kind of the general songwriting style that a lot of artists use. And then there's the other side, which is the narrative songwriting style, which is what I think people like Taylor Swift rely upon. It's super specific about what she's doing and what he was wearing that day and how she felt, and it was raining and it was 2 a.m. and all those types of things. So that is a different type of songwriting. I don't know if she doesn't want to license her songs or hasn't been asked as much to, but those songs obviously would be more challenging to license than Shake It Off, where that could apply to anything, right? But her current album and Lover, again, that's a song that a lot of people maybe can relate to, and it would have to be a scene where that was something that was going on. But when you start writing specific lyrics about things going on in your life, it's going to be harder to say place. She has a song called London Boy. It's all about, you know, her boyfriend. That's not going to work if, you know, there's a show set in Miami, right? So you have to think about those things. But, you know, obviously for her songwriting, and if you're a narrative storyteller, some artists write beautiful songs that are narrative, and it's not to say you can't license them, but you just kind of have to know what you're good at. Are you good at writing kind of catchy, pop, simple, straightforward songs that have broad lyrics? Or are you better writing descriptive, narrative, storytelling type songs? And, you know, and maybe it's a mixture of both, but you just have to sort of write in whatever style works for you. And maybe there's other styles I'm not aware of, but those are the ones that come to mind.
So once again, it goes back to like maybe playing to your strengths and discovering what your strengths are and really just running with it.
Right. I think there's some people that are just good at writing catchy hooks and pop songs. And, you know, and again, it's not to say you can't do both. I've worked with a lot of artists where they might have some, and they usually say, oh, I don't like that song. I'm like, that's your best song because it's catchy. But, you know, you can write ballads and you can write mid-tempo songs and you can write in different genres and in different styles. But at the end of the day, you know, you just have to be writing, I think, music that speaks to you and to your heart. And if you're doing that, hopefully that will speak to other people and will resonate with them.
Ah, that's a beautiful way of putting it. Yeah. In terms of just like current, what's happening right now in the sync world, are there any trends that you're seeing right now that might be good to push some chips in this direction if you're, you know, somebody who does like a certain type of pop music, or just anything around like what's hot now and what people are asking for now?
It's a good question. Again, I think it depends so much on the project, and it's really good to just watch your favorite shows and just see what is getting used. Oftentimes, that's the homework that I would always be given when I would talk to a music supervisor. They would say, "Well, watch the show and then come back and talk to me." Right? That's if they're in the middle of the season, right? And you can kind of see what's going on. I don't know. I mean, I think in general, anything that sounds like what's on the radio, what is a Billboard top song, something that's trending on Spotify maybe as well. But I think the music supervision, and most people want songs that are popular because that's what people like. And obviously if there's, a documentary and it's about, EDM, then obviously you'd have all EDM music. But, I think with rock, I think rock is coming back. I mean, I think that's probably a trend, hopefully, that we're going to see. With trailers, trailers are very different because trailers are really more of a composed situation. They don't license a lot of songs for trailers. And if they do, they tend to be really big, Imagine Dragons songs or Coldplay or some big artist because they want Billie Eilish or something, or Ariana Grande. So that can be difficult to kind of accomplish. And that's more of a sound design thing and sort of the effects of what type of sound design is in. Like, I'm not a sound designer or composer, but again, if you watch any trailers, you can just sense that it used to be a lot more classical score, and now it's a lot more just sound design and effects and, like sounds. And then maybe they also use a pop song in some points of the scene. But I mean, TV, there's so much. I'm trying to think. There's so much out there, right? There's so many documentaries now that are popular. There's so many Netflix shows and Amazon Prime shows, and there's so many types of films and projects that I don't know if you can just generalize and say, this is working well for everything. But generally speaking, I'd say you probably want to be writing things that are contemporary sounding. I think the biggest mistake I've seen a lot of artists make for whatever reason is they send me music and it sounds, I don't know why, but kind of dated, and not even like, oh, I grew up in the 80s and it sounds 80s, because that could actually be cool right now, right? Because 80s is kind of in and 90s is in. So it's hard to say, but I would say, trying to, not to emulate artists that are popular, but just, you want to sound current, right? You want to sound much more like, Imagine Dragons, and much less like a band that was popular 20 or 30 years ago. Like I think it has a lot to do with maybe the producer people are using. And people sometimes use producers that, oh, but I made all these records in the 80s and 90s, and that's great, but maybe that's not what people want now, and not to say you have to emulate Billie Eilish, but she's obviously a lot more popular than someone that was popular when I was growing up. So I think being aware of, kind of now that lo-fi style of, the Billie Eilish style production, but she's so unique. So I wouldn't say to emulate that either, but that is obviously much more popular now than it was before, because her style is so different, right? It's just so different. When you listen on headphones and it sounds amazing on headphones, but it's almost like underproduced in a lot of ways. And very simple in a lot of ways. So I think we're kind of going towards either maybe like a rock resurgence, or maybe more of kind of a mellow lo-fi resurgence. Again, if you're not into like EDM, which I know that's what a lot of people listen to, but that's, again, not a lot of what gets licensed. I haven't really had anybody ask me for that. Sometimes they're obscure indie rock bands, and sometimes you just get a list and they say, we want to replace these 5 or 6 artists, and I've never heard of them. So I'm on YouTube looking them up, and they can be really eclectic and indie, or they can be, again, really big, popular bands. It just depends.
You make so many great points, and one of them, and you touched upon this even earlier, just that, occasionally there's going to be a home for almost any song that's professionally produced. There's going to potentially be an opportunity down the road, but that, perhaps like what might be best in terms of like using your time, if it's within like kind of what you do well, is kind of learning to play within the sandbox of like what is happening right now in music. Would that be fair to say?
I think so.
Yeah. That's well, cool. Let's see. I think I might have like let me see. I've got maybe one other question to ask you, and then I just want to open it up to the students because I'm sure they have a bunch of questions they'd like to ask you too.
Yeah, I'm trying to read this, but answer all your questions. I'm just
yeah.
questions people are asking. I see all the messages coming in, so thank you for those. Okay, we had some sound issues, but I think it's okay now.
I think because it sounds like you do give this type of advice often to your own clients, like the bands and artists that you manage. What are some of the most frequent pieces of feedback that you give them in order to make a song like easier to use in licensing?
I mean, I think I've touched on a lot of things. It's tough sometimes to, again, sort of emulate someone. Again, I think Kathy had talked about, oh, she liked Ingrid Michaelson, so she was trying to sort of copy that style. That can work, but you have to sort of be aware of what your strengths are, right? And if I need a rock song and you're a singer-songwriter, you're not going to try to write an Imagine Dragons track, right? You're not going to try to emulate a Beyonce or Taylor Swift. I think, you do have to generally kind of write songs that are yours and then, see if those work or not. And if they don't work in terms of your general songwriting, I think then you can say collaborate with other songwriters and maybe say, okay, I tend to write songs in this style, and maybe that's just what I want to make as an artist. But if I want to also say, write some songs, I would suggest, well, you can write in your regular style, and I don't want to, kind of influence your art because music is art, right? But if you want to get your songs licensed and approach it more like a job in some respects, like professional songwriters, they just sit and they write songs all day. They want to write a song to get licensed, we're going to write. There are plenty of people that will sit just and write songs that they think are going to get licensed. Oh, we need a poppy upbeat song for an ad, or we need a poignant sad song for these places. And so you can kind of sit there and kind of put those together. I don't know. I'm getting off a tangent, I feel like, if that's not answering your question.
Oh, it's all good. And no, all this is like, it just helps us to understand kind of the whole process that goes into it. It's not like one thing that's applicable in every situation. It sounds like there's different, different types of songs, different types of feedback. But everything you're saying is really useful. I think that I'd just like to open it up to everybody here in the chat. If you have a question, we got a couple of hands raised. We're going to just go ahead and go to a couple of those. Hey, Adam, what's up, man?
Hi, John. Jennifer, how's it going?
Hi, nice to meet you. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Nice to meet you too. I just had one question about what you said about how you, like you said, for a long time, you were just sending emails and calling all day.
Right.
Yeah, it feels like I'm doing that right now. And I'm just doing like a whole bunch of research on just like who I think I want to work with, and just kind of like looking up their websites and just seeing if they're like to the professionalism and if they'll actually be able to kind of get done what I need done. So it seems like I've been just like writing emails for like weeks. Right. So I'm kind of curious, and just so you know, I'm like a rock artist from Canada.
Oh, nice.
So I'm curious, like how that worked out for you, like spending so much time doing that. Did it kind of like give you a better idea of who you wanted to work with and kind of like help you develop the connections with the people you work with today? Or did it kind of like, was it not worth it type thing?
That's a good question. I mean, you're talking about reaching out to music supervisors to get your music licensed, or producers, or what types of people are you reaching out to?
Right now I'm doing research on all the people, like managers, producers, music supervisors, press, like PR. Yeah.
A lot. Okay. I was just trying to get a sense. It's a great question. I would say probably it wasn't the best use of my time to lock myself in my office and just cold call people. I was doing this at a time when I was pitching ad agencies, because I know there's a lot of money in advertising, and I just said, I'll just call these people and eventually I'll get things placed. And, I think it was difficult because if you don't know someone, I would leave a message, they would never call back. So, and then I would follow up with an email, but then they also wouldn't respond to the email. I think what was happening though, that was a unique situation in that this is probably more like 5 or 10 years, probably more like 10 years ago, the ad agencies and part of the advertising business was sort of just imploding a little bit. And so a lot of these people were maybe not going to have jobs in the near future. And so they were and people are busy, right? If they are on a commercial shoot, they're on a commercial shoot, they're out of the office, they have other responsibilities, and I'm sure they're getting sales calls all day. So it can be very difficult to do that. And I kind of look back on that, and not to say it was a waste of time, but I think maybe my time could have been spent, I don't know, doing anything else. So I think it's really good that you're doing that, because it is a good skill set to have. I always appreciate when an artist calls me because I get so few actual phone calls. So if you actually pick up the phone and call, I'm like, oh, someone's calling, they're pitching themselves, and that takes, you know, some confidence to pick up the phone and call a stranger and say, hey, check out my music, or, you know, can I send you something? It's easy to send an email, right? But it's hard to pick up the phone. So, and people don't get as many phone calls as they used to because everyone's just email blasting them. So I think it is a great skill to be able to present yourself over the phone. At the same time, is it the most efficient use of your time? No. Would you be better off sending out a mass email? Yes. But is that going to get as good a response as targeted emails? No. So you have to sort of decide what makes sense, and it might make sense. I always say if you're trying to do a lot of different things, and I get that in the beginning or promoting your career, you might need a manager, an agent, you know, to get your songs licensed. You want to hire publicists. You know, you might want to find other band members, to songwriters to work with. But it's very difficult to like do all of those things, right? So I would really sit down and say, what is my goal right now, and who do I need to talk to accomplish that goal? So if it's to say make money from licensing your music, you know, maybe you want to be working more with Catch the Moon, which you already are, but maybe you want to focus on that. Maybe you want to focus on the songwriting and perfecting that. If you're a really great live band or a live artist, you want to be booking shows, and you want to be out playing those things and getting in touch with music promoters and that type of thing. And so I think you really want to kind of plan out your goals and then work backwards and say, well, if I want to make money, what do I need to do and how can I do that? And then work backwards and see who do I need to talk to do that. If you want to make a better live show and go on tour and do that whole thing, you need to figure out who are those people that you need to know and work backwards from that goal. So I wouldn't try to do everything because it's a lot. And, you know, if you can find obviously a manager that would take you on, that would obviously they would then handle talking to publicists and put you in contact with people that can help you, and you wouldn't have to like starting from scratch. And I know Kathy did it too. It is hard. Like it is calling people and not hearing back. It is going to things and, you know, not hearing back. It is years of people not responding to you just to even get on their radar for them to even maybe listen to your music, right? Some music supervisors, I mean, this is old information, but some of my music supervisor friends would tell me they get 1,000 emails a day, and I haven't even talked to them lately to ask how many emails they get now. Is it 2,000, 10,000? I don't know. But let's just assume it's still 1,000 a day. To even open, I have friends that don't open my emails. You know what I mean? Like if I sent you 1,000 emails, how many of those would you open? So something like that, you have to be aware of. People are getting a lot of emails, you know? So what are the chances are that they're going to open up yours when they don't know you versus someone like Kathy or someone like me that they've known a while? Obviously that's a different situation. So I would try to figure out what you really want to focus on. And again, if you can get, say, a manager or someone that's really well connected, people hire publicists because they have those relationships with media. People hire people like Catch the Moon and Kathy because they have those relationships. People have relationships. So you can try to build it yourself, but it's a long time. And it's a lot of energy. It's not even a lot of money necessarily, but just a lot of your time. And it's like, how much is your time worth? Sorry, it's a long answer, but I feel like there's good information in there.
Yeah, no, it's a good answer. So thanks so much for that. And I'll be working towards that. Thank you.
Of course.
Great question. Yeah. Thanks. Christina, let's unmute you. What's up, Christina?
Hey, what's up? Hey, Jennifer. Nice to meet you. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate just sharing your experience and knowledge, and especially with management. So yeah, I actually was just been discovering a little bit just about myself and just what I would love to get into. I definitely would love to kind of like learn how to manage artists and get into the ball game of like doing A&R. So I wanted to see like, what is your advice of just like, you know, how I know that you've tried to search out and scout artists and going to their live shows and kind of got your foot in the door to kind of manage artists. Is there a way that or advice that you can actually give? What would that be and how I could get started? I was thinking like maybe interning. I was thinking like for A&R or something towards something like that. I wanted to see what your experience is.
Okay, so you're interested in getting into management and maybe A&R?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at hi. I see your chat message as well. That's a good question. I mean, there really is no barrier to entry for management. For being an agent, there's a lot of licensing. You have to get bonded. It's difficult. Even lawyers I know that have gone through it, it's a pain. So that's different. Management, I mean, you could just start a management company today and call yourself a manager. There are some restrictions if you're in California or New York, maybe some other states where you can't legally book a show if you're a manager in those states, or it could invalidate things. It's a whole other conversation. There'd be a whole other Zoom call. But basically, you could just start a management company, and there's really nothing. All you need is a name and probably to register a DBA. I mean, you could incorporate. That's expensive, but you can just manage. You can manage yourself. You can find acts that you believe in, and I think with management, it's just about finding the talent, right? So if you find the next, Taylor Swift or Beyonce or Imagine Dragons, like you go from being unknown to being their manager. So, but it's really about finding the talent, and you got to have the talent to manage and have a good ear for that. A&R is kind of the same thing. I mean, you could start a record label, you could get an internship somewhere, and I mean, A&R is a tough industry. One of my good friends has been in A&R her whole life, and there's been a lot of consolidation, right? Because before you'd have to go sit in that club because we didn't know what kind of music there was, and that's how bands and artists got signed, and it still is how they get signed in terms of you have to be good to get a record deal, and you have to be put on a great live show, because what if you are nominated for a Grammy and you get up there and you can't sing? Obviously, there's a bar that's very high that if you want to get to be a recording artist, you have to be an incredible live performer. So in terms of A&R, there's just a lot less demand for A&R people, because there are things now like Spotify and SoundCloud, and they can just hire, interns and young kids to kind of just go out on those services and find who's blowing up on Spotify. They've got 10 million, streams, or someone's blowing up on YouTube or Instagram. You can, sign people based on a lot of data and metrics. And as much as A&R people have talked about that not being a good idea, because again, someone can have no fans, but just maybe everyone will love them. It's just, there's just a lot less demand in A&R. So, I mean, it's really tough. If you were like 20 and just coming out of college and really, really wanted to do it or willing to pay your dues, I would say, okay, maybe, but I just don't think that it's a growing or booming industry. I think you'd be much better off trying to get into management, starting your own management company, finding the talent that way. Or honestly, having managed for so long, knowing that there's pitfalls to that too, I think the smarter thing to do would be to start an independent, either a record label or label/publishing company, where you're basically like a collective, where you're in partnership with the artists, and maybe you co-own the masters and publishing with them, so you have some stake in it, because as a manager, you don't have any ownership over anything. So it's great if your clients are loyal to you, but if they go on to become Coldplay and then they fire you, you don't make any money, right? So and some artists are loyal and some aren't. But if you started a company and you owned even 10% of publishing on some songs that you were developing, maybe with a couple other people, then at least you have some skin in the game. So I would do something like, if I had to do all over again, or if I was starting out, that's what I would do. But do what you love. I mean, don't let me dissuade you from management. It's just a tough business. It's ruthless. And there's the whole thing. Even if you work hard enough and your artist finally gets to be successful, like there's nothing that's forcing them, even with a contract, you can't force someone. I can't force you to have me still be your manager. You just won't talk to me. Right. So I would really look at something that's more of a partnership and try to start a company that's partnering with artists and helping them, as opposed to just managing someone or getting an A&R job. Do something creative, right? Like that.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for your advice, and appreciate all that.
Of course. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's such great questions. I want to make sure we have some time to dive into some hot takes on some of these songs, Jennifer.
Yeah.
And if we have some time afterwards, perhaps we can answer another question or two. But yeah, so these are songs that the students have put together during the course for licensing. It's basically like it's songs that were written for licensing. So any feedback that you might have, I would probably venture to say that everybody would want your just honest take on this stuff. So don't hold back with stuff. Here we go. This first one is Esley Martinez. Let's go ahead and pop this open, and just a little heads up with the way that audio goes through the stream. It seems to zap a lot of the low end, so just keep that in mind. It's not an ideal situation in terms of being able to hear the mix with all this, but still should be able to get the point across pretty well. Here we go. Share the computer sound. All right.
If I ever fall, would you help me stand up? Would you come back and save me? Will you save me? When you hear the call, I know you will be brave. We're like a wave that breaks through, always breaks through. When the trials come, look up to the sun. Allow the fire to take you higher. When the trials come, look up to the sun. Lift me up as one rise, as one we rise. Lift me up as one rise, as one we rise. We are never falling. Lift me as one. Lift me up. Lift me up. Rise as one we rise. Lift me up as one rise, as one we rise.
Yeah, so usually I'll just play through it for a verse and a chorus and then scan around a little bit.
Okay, so I know that's like a rough demo. I mean, I think it was interesting that the sort of mid and high end to me was a little bit pitchy, but that the lower end kind of had a really interesting voice. So again, that's one of those things you want to play to your strengths. And I would say like, ooh, like there's kind of an interesting, lower register on that song. But then when it got to sort of the mid and higher level, it sounded a little bit pitchy and a little off key. So again, you kind of have to play to your strengths and know, like, I'm not a soprano, like I would only sing alto. So you have to know where you can, what range to write songs in and kind of play to those strengths. So again, if you want to write songs in a high register, that's fine, but then you would need to maybe find someone that can sing those. I think that's a pretty rough demo. I think, again, yeah, the vocals probably could use some work, but I would probably work on songs that, again, played to my strengths, which would be the lower register and like sounded like a really cool voice, but on the lower notes, not on those mid and higher level notes. And I wasn't really sure what the song was about. So again, you sort of want to have some message in the song of like, what is it about? Like, how am I going to relate to it as just a music fan? What are you singing to? And again, exploring that raw, kind of honesty in your songwriting. It's hard to relate to something unless the production is just over the top. I mean, again, not to keep bringing them up, because I tried to sign them when they started out, so I guess I have a little thing about Imagine Dragons, but they've been always great songwriters, and they weren't necessarily the best live band in the beginning, but their songwriting is incredible, and the production, and obviously finding the right producer is really, really key. So, it might be about collaborating with someone where finding the right register for your voice and then collaborating with someone that can produce, or maybe you want to write songs and co-write with other artists. But yeah, I felt like the vocals definitely needed a lot of work on that song. So
Thanks for your take on it. Really appreciate it. Next up, we've got, what's that?
It's a process. Everything's a process, right? It's like, no one writes the great American novel just, the first time they've ever written something, right? It's like everything is just, it's like honing a skill, right? It's that Malcolm Gladwell, like Kathy talks about, 10,000 hours. You're going to get better, but you have to be willing to put the time and energy in. I'm sure Diane Warren's first songs were not good. Most artists say their first songs were not good. You're not going to come out and be Bruce Springsteen, So, I mean, it's a process of things.
Yeah, it's a journey for sure. I mean, just myself personally, it probably took me about 500 songs before I wrote something that was any good. So it takes a lot of time. Some people are lucky, some people are blessed in ways, and they kind of figure out how to how to put together the project and have like the right folks and just kind of have the right sound that they're going for. And it comes together a lot faster than it has for me. But yeah, all really good feedback. Next up, we got Andrea DeBoer. This song's called Porch Light, and let's pull it up. Here we go.
Every day I look in your windows. Your apple eyes tell me more than you would even think to say, and I just can't look away. Now I don't want to say it's all roses. All your thorns can scar and really hurt like hell, even though you mean me well. 'Cause lately we've been at odds all the time. When everywhere seems like it's the next landmine, feel somehow we need a break in. How about some give and take? Let go of all our fears and get into when the day ends and the night comes, everything's alright. It's gonna be a good night. When the day ends and the night comes, everything is alright. It's gonna be a good night. Night comes, everything is alright. It's gonna be a good night. When the day ends and the night.
Okay, got some good comments in there. It's nice. It's like our American Idol votes are coming in. The voice now. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think the song is
Oh, hang on a second. I'm going to mute everybody here, and then I'll unmute you. This can happen sometimes. Where are you at? I think you can unmute yourself, but let me.
oh.
There, I think we got you back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sometimes people accidentally unmute themselves and stuff. It
Okay.
happens.
Got it. Typical conferencing thing. Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely, I mean, you can hear, I think already the comments, I mean, it's a catchy chorus. I mean, sounds like the kind of chorus that with a little bit more work, I think could possibly get licensed, especially to an ad, because it's poppy and it's upbeat. You got some female vocals in there. I think the song could probably use some work in the beginning. It started out a little pitchy and a little slow. I will say one A&R person explained this very well, and I think this applies to a lot of songs. He says it's like you're writing the song, but you're listening, and it's like being in a car, and you're driving, and then it's like, you're going to drive off a cliff like in Thelma and Louise or something, and then it just just stops right before you're just about to launch, right? And so I felt like that song was also, I like the chorus a lot. Like, I think the chorus has a lot of potential for like placement, again, especially with an ad. But I felt like the beginning, again, could use some work with the vocals, and it's sort of like, oh, I thought we're kind of going somewhere, we're getting there, and then, like the brakes come on as opposed to the gas. And so you really want to floor it. You really want that song to kind of just, in the chorus and everything, kind of like pop and explode and be like, the verses, you can have some, I don't want to say that it can be mediocre, but, you can get away with sort of like, da-da-da, like a vibe and something that isn't the most exciting. But again, by the time you get to the chorus, you better hook somebody into that, and your song should have momentum to them. They call it build. You talk a lot about build in songs, especially songs for like movie trailers, but they want to feel, and every good kind of radio song, especially, the Imagine Dragons and the Coldplays, by the time they get to that, bridge or whatever, there's like a real build to it. So I would love to feel like that song had more legs and like it's going to take off like an airplane, and I don't want to be stuck on the runway, right? So that's something. But yeah, I work on the beginning. The intro was a little bit weak, but the chorus is really good. And I think, with more sort of time spent on it, I think that chorus could be a really good, with the lyrics and everything, that's a very general universal theme that could work really well for an ad. So yeah, I think that song has some good potential, but again, work on the beginning intro part.
All really solid feedback, I would say. I mean, it's just a thank you for your take on that.
Yeah, it's a cool track. I mean, definitely, you know, those are the types of songs that work well in advertising. TV might be a little harder because it's poppy and, you know, they want usually music that plays very nicely underneath and doesn't distract from the drama or the action or whatever's going on in the scene. But in terms of just writing a good pop song, I think you're like, you know, maybe like half the way there.
Mm. I think looks like we got time for one more. Would love to have your take on one more song.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome, by the way. Can everyone in the chat just pipe in how you feeling with this? This has been great, I feel.
Yeah, this is my first. I've only done Skyping and individual hangouts. This is cool being able to see people and see the chats. And thanks so much, you know, for joining.
Yeah, super fun, right?
Yeah.
Here we go. So this one's Purple Dream. This is by Kelsey Kovar. Here we go.
I like the name Purple Dream. That's cool.
Oh, wrong list. Here we go.
You are not for me, but I can pretend in my purple dream. Say you'll never leave, 'cause it never rains in my purple dream. Far from the world where it don't make sense, hide in the clouds and forget your head. Stay in my purple dream. Stay in my purple dream. Lie and run from the world where it don't make purple dream.
Wow, that's really good. I mean, obviously, I think that evokes a lot. Can everyone hear me? Okay. It sounds, I mean, obviously, I get a real Billie Eilish vibe from it, and just in terms of like her voice and the mood and the tempo and the production, but it has its own sort of unique vibe to it. And obviously, I mean, that's a cool title, right? Even just the name, the track title, Purple Dream, certainly would get anyone's attention to what's that, you know? So it definitely evokes a mood. It definitely does, I think, a lot of the things that that you want a song to do. I would apply sort of what I said in the last comment too, about like when you feel like it's going to go somewhere, like it's going to break out into like a bad guy chorus, and not to say you have to emulate Billie Eilish, because everyone should have their own unique style. You don't want to copy someone too much, but yeah, the production's really cool. I love her voice. Like, I love the vibe of it. I would just say I would like the song to kind of go somewhere. Sometimes songs just kind of go. And again, if I'm just chilling at home and I want to listen to something, it's definitely going to evoke a mood. But if you're writing something that you're trying to get licensed or pitched to another artist, or even if you're playing it live, you know, and again, if you're just, it depends on your aesthetic. Like maybe that's the type of artist that she is, and it's going to be, that whole set's going to be kind of more of a jam session and more of that vibe. But I would love to hear it go somewhere, and maybe I would if I heard more of the song. But yeah, overall, I mean, I really liked it. I just think it could lead into like a more interesting chorus or something that's a little bit more dynamic and that's changing, if that makes sense. But yeah, really good song. I mean, you know, definitely liked it.
Great feedback. Thank you so much for your time. We're at the top of the hour, so I don't think we're going to have any more time for questions, but I just wanted to ask real quick, and totally be respectful of your boundaries, of course, with just professionally. If anybody did want to reach out to you in any capacity, is there a preferred way that you would like to be contacted, that you prefer to be contacted? Do you have a form on your website? We just like to ask in case.
Yeah, of course. Usually the best thing to do is just email me and say, we were on the session together, or you watch this if it's online somewhere. It's True Talent PR is probably the easiest website. So it's truetalentpr.com, or you can also Google Platinum Star Management. And that's also my website, Platinum Star Management. So yeah, forms on there that you can email me and hit me up.
Great.
Yeah, thanks so much, everyone, for being part of this. Really fun, and thanks for all the really nice comments. I hope that the feedback was helpful.
So nice to meet you. It was so helpful, and look forward to doing another one of these with you sometime soon.
Yeah, I would love it. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good one.
Bye.